Yes, very awesome. We're joined by Lisa.
Hey, how's it going?
Very,
Hi,
very
how's it
well.
going? I'm Tom.
Lisa, nice
Nice
to
to
meet
meet
you,
you, Lisa.
Tom.
So make sure your microphone's turned on.
It is.
Good, good.
Hey.
And welcome to the World Crypto Network.
Hi, World
You're
Crypto
live on
Network.
the internet.
Hi, Internet.
So, hi, internet.
Welcome to cyberspace.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm very excited.
Well,
Cool.
but you're actually familiar to cyberspace because what you do is actually live coding,
This
which
is
I
true.
always thought was fantastic. So how did you come up with that, and how is it?
Yeah, so I don't remember who was bugging him about it, but at some point, someone was bothering roast beef about why he wasn't live coding. Um, and I thought it was a great idea. Like Twitch is really easy to get started on.
hmm
I just looked up you can, you sign up for an account. It's really easy, and then setting up my laptop to do it didn't take super long. And it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna try this. And I had another friend who also sent me. There were two things. One was hearing people clearly people wanted it, right? So someone else had this idea hey, wouldn't it be great if people live code? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then a friend of mine sent me this video of this guy who was jamming out to jungle beats and just programming, kind of he wasn't wearing a shirt and sweating and just it was this really aesthetic experience, if that makes sense. Programming is this performance art kind of thing.
Well,
Um,
and what about the profanity? Because I mean, when I get stuck on something, like I once built a Lego model on the internet, and I
yeah.
was pretty sure I was going to rage quit 2 or 3 times, and also trying to be level-headed and trying to keep this reasonableness when you're looking for some stupid little piece. And I can only imagine programming would be so much worse live.
Yeah, I am. The thing about it is you just I mean, when that sort of stuff happens, it's okay to lose your cool, whatever. I mean, I kind of see it as a little bit of entertainment. Hopefully, I'm not super boring, but if I am, that's okay too. That's what is part of the job, right? Yeah, I don't know. I deleted a whole directory on when I was streaming, a while
Oh
ago. Yeah,
no!
so we're
Oh
working on this
no!
RFC thing, and we have this command in C Lightning that's supposed to sync. It's supposed to update files in the C Lightning repo based on things in the RFC thing. And so I was trying to update my stuff, and I ran the command, and I passed in the wrong directory to the wrong um, variable or whatever, and it just totally deleted the whole thing I was trying to do. Luckily, everything was saved in a Git or whatever. Well, I mean, that even deletes your local Git, right? It wiped the whole thing out. Luckily, I'd pushed everything up, but it was oh, great, we just deleted it. Awesome, cool, let's fix it now. So, you just all right, what's next? Keep going.
So I bet you got a bunch of negative comments after that,
I
right?
don't know how many people watch me. I don't know how many people actually saw that happen. So no one cares. No one
Because on the
cares.
positive side, if people watched you and they knew what they were doing, maybe they could give you information. Like,
I was about to say that. Isn't that kind of like live peer review, right?
Maybe I haven't. No one's really been. Everyone's oh, cool.
you have to share it with all the programmer groups. You have to think like, who would you
Yeah.
want watching? Who would you want watching you, and then get them to watch you,
Yeah.
and then maybe they'd have the advice. Because that's what I'd hope for. Because sometimes I was in the British Museum
Yeah.
and I got a Twitter message, and the guy's like, "Don't forget, they have the Rosetta Stone." I was
Oh.
like, "Stop everything!" Excuse me. Stop everything. They have the Rosetta Stone. I'm going, and where's the museum guy? Okay, 5 floors down, over. So I'm
Yeah.
like 5 floors down and over, and then I'm standing in front of the Rosetta Stone, and it's because some guy on the internet thought it was a good idea to tell me because he knew I'd be interested.
Yeah.
So maybe eventually they can say, "Oh, you're using the wrong library. You need to use, this library," and they'll give you the information.
Yeah. Maybe.
No, not yet.
I don't know. I think I don't really listen. Right now, I don't really have it set up so I can really get feedback from people live. That's definitely something I need. I need to work on it. There's definitely a way to get Twitch comments and be able to see them.
Oh, there's a chat room. Yeah,
There's a chat room,
there's
but
definitely a
when I'm
chat room.
on my terminal, it doesn't notify me. I don't know. I've looked through
Well,
this.
it depends what you're using. Are you hardcore like JJ? You have this 4 terminal Windows. You never use a mouse. Like it has to be what's it called? VI. You can't use Nano or Pico or whatever it is. Oh, no, 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 no,
Very,
no.
very good.
Control X and all these things. Yeah, no one knows any of those keys.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know. Yeah, it's all in Vim. But I don't know. Yeah.
Text editor wars.
Yeah. I mean, we probably should not.
I
let
want
other people
to
dabble in that,
light them all on fire. Like they're all, but mainly they're just all they talk about in there in the chat. I had to put it away. it's all a big blocker, small blocker thing. Like they're still, it's like Japan after the war, those guys were in the caves and they just kept fighting and they're like, the war's not over, man. Like the emperor lives.
Yeah.
Like, and meanwhile, like the emperor's out there like being a big clown on all the things, and then Roger's like hiding and giving up, and like all their battlefields in tattered. They lost 95% of their value. Like they're still like you can send it really cheap like Dogecoin, but it loses 95% of its value like Dogecoin.
Right.
So I mean, it's really good comparison to Bitcoin, which just seems to keep going.
Some
So
days.
yeah. Well, I need to get on an airplane. I haven't been traveling enough,
Oh,
so
okay.
it'll be fine by Tuesday.
Oh, great. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Well, at least you got a
Schedule
plan
it.
to take
Done.
care of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Number go up.
Yeah.
Of course.
Great.
Of course.
Yeah.
Get on airplane.
But
Makes it
so,
go up.
as a nomad, you work on Sea Lightning most of the time?
Yeah.
All the time?
All the time.
What is the current task you're tinkering on?
Oh yeah, so right now I've been working on, so the big project I've been working on is called dual funding. Yeah, we almost shipped a version of it. So I'm also managing the release this week. I'm behind. It's fine. We might get we're not gonna
This
get
is more important than releasing.
Way more
it's
important,
super
yeah,
important.
yeah.
Well, we found a few bugs, so we fixed them. So I need to do another release candidate. I should actually get that out at some point today. Yeah. Anyway, so it was gonna go in this release. Anyways, but I should probably explain what it is. It's basically right now when you open a Lightning channel, only person that can put money into the channel up front is the person who opens it, which is great. Like it makes it really easy to like open a channel, put money in. And a lot of reasons why they did that early on is because it's like the easiest protocol to ship. It's like, when you're making a product, you want to go like minimum viable product. So for Lightning, that in one way that kind of manifested itself in the Lightning protocol is that when you open a channel, only one person can put money in it. So we want to change that. We want to make it so that this other side can also put money in the channel so that channels are more balanced to begin with. And one thing that we have to do in order to make that possible is change kind of just the opening conversation that two nodes have. Like, so if you're not super familiar with protocol development, the whole idea is it's like a canned conversation and you script out each side. So first person will say this, and then the second person will say this back, and then they will, so you like kind of have like this conversation that goes back and forth. And the original conversation that two nodes have to open a channel, we call it channel establishment. The initial conversation didn't have any room for the second node to have the opportunity to say, hey, I would like to put this in the transaction so we can open it together. So we've changed the conversation. So just calling it channel establishment V2. Yeah. And so that's dual funding proposal really. Anyway, so I've been working on that. We had like a first draft of it done, and we were getting really close to getting it merged, at least for experimental features. So it'd be in the code base, but you wouldn't be able to use it unless you like did some special stuff to turn it on.
Only is that insider trading?
Yeah. Well, insider featuring. So yeah. Right. And it's it's a network thing, so it's not really worth a lot unless there's a bunch of nodes that talk the same like.
Yeah, like if you change that base protocol, is it backwards compatible?
No, it's not backwards compatible. So what the proposal as it stands right now is that we'll have a totally new V2 of channel establishment, and everyone will just start using the new canned conversation as the network upgrades or as people roll it out. Yeah.
So you're basically Shakespeare writing screenplays.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's totally what
Start
protocol
at the
development
top.
work is like. We should totally make this a thing. Yeah. Shakespearean writers are the Lightning developers.
What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
like
That's
that.
exactly what nodes say to each other. It's kind of poetic. Like, yeah.
Well, in the beginning, astronauts didn't write poetry, but they're changing that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, would it make sense to have some poetry maybe hidden in the code base in the protocol?
So it's so funny that you say that. I don't know if Rusty is like very in my like one of my I love working with Rusty, and one of my favorite things about some of the things Rusty does is he's really good about annotating the code with not so much like comments as maybe I think there is some poetry in the C Lightning code base is all I'm trying to say.
Oh.
that Rusty has left in there for the person who's willing, so like go out and see if you can find it. It's like in there. Yeah,
Did you
actually,
find it yet?
yeah. Yeah, it was
Ah,
actually so one of the first things I did when I joined Blockstream was spend a lot of time reading through the code base. Rusty has done a really good job, I think, of annotating all the different parts to it. So I can give you, if it's interesting, I can give like a really short kind of intro to the architecture behind
for
C
sure.
Lightning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so one thing that I really like about C Lightning is the way that it's architected is it would go back kind of to like the screenplay thing. There's a couple different roles. We call them daemons. Sea Lightning, I think, has like six. I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but there's like 6 or 7 daemons, and each of them has a different role or responsibility for different things that happen during Lightning. So, one daemon that we have is called Gossip D. The D stands for daemon, so the Gossip daemon. And their role is to talk to all the other nodes and figure out what their gossip is and store it. And then when someone else asks for gossip, to like pass it along. So they're like the little like town gossip is Gossip D. And so anyway, so there's Gossip D, and then there's something else called Connect D, which is responsible for creating connections between nodes. Um, there's Closing D, which is responsible for closing a channel between nodes. There's Opening D, which is responsible for opening a channel. Anyway, so there's like these like daemons. And each of the daemons, Rusty went through and kind of wrote the story of the daemon. So if you want to go through and read all like 6 or 7 stories of the daemons, you can like go in, and each of the comments in the code base has like a little tilde at the front of it if it's part of the story, just to like differentiate it from normal code comments. Yeah.
The story of the demons with a lot of mystery, like dark dungeons.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. I think there's dragons
tortures.
a few
And all.
places. Yeah, like not even joking. Yeah, so that's like kind of like one of the first things when someone comes to the Sea Lightning code base. Rusty will usually be like, "Hey, like, have you read like the?" If you read through all of them, I think he has like a standing invite to buy you a beer the next time he sees you, kind of thing.
Oh, fantastic! Did you get the beer from him?
I did not get a beer, but maybe I did. I don't remember. Like I was like, I think people bought me beers at some point, so it was like fine.
Well, if you forget that they bought the beer, then it was good
Yeah.
beer. So.
Like,
Then it worked. Yeah.
yeah. So it's good.
Ah, fantastic.
Cool.
And so, what are you excited here about the Lightning Conf? How do you like it so
Man,
far?
oh my gosh, there's so many cool things. I was like going through the because they just sent out the semi-finalized schedule this morning, which makes sense. So like most of my stuff that I hear about is people who like I'm not so good at keeping up with everything that's going on in Lightning. Most of it's things that like happen to fly across my radar, if that makes sense. There's a project that they're working with like Gotanas to make high latency, low bandwidth lightning nodes. It's Will Clark and I think Rich Meyer are doing that. They've got a workshop that I don't know if it's gonna work out because that's like an hour, so I gotta figure out what I have to give up to see it. But and I think Rich is also, which I think both of them are giving talks also. So I'm interested. I think that's really cool stuff. It's interesting because I'm really curious to hear from them kind of I think the requirements are different in terms of like, so like for gossip, for example, the gossip daemon makes a lot of assumptions about um, oh, makes a lot of assumptions about how much bandwidth it can like use, or like that it wants to hear all the gossip from everyone and wants to stay up to date. But if you don't have a lot of bandwidth, maybe you want to make different decisions about that. Yeah, so that's one thing I'm interested in.
And so, right, that's the beauty of having different implementations of the Lightning Network, because you can have these different trade-offs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what are some of the trade-offs that Sea Lightning chooses? What
Um,
is it tailor-made for?
oh, that's a good question. I think so. Sea Lightning has one big trade-off for sure, and that I think definitely makes it like it's not as platform portable as like some of the other implementations. And one of the reasons for that is like an early architecture decision that had to do with the what do you call it? The way that the daemons work and how they communicate really relies on stuff that like certain aspects of the operating system that's like Linux based, which makes a lot of sense. Like Rusty architected a lot of it. He made architecture decisions based on the Linux infrastructure, which is what he knows really well. So those sorry, those yeah, so it does, those decisions though make it really hard to port C Lightning to other platforms. So I think that's kind of one decision that I don't know if it's like we necessarily chose that, but that's kind of where we've ended up in terms of
So no C
specialization.
Lightning on Windows?
Not not in its current form. I'm not sure what would have to change to make it possible.
That's a feature, not a bug.
As if you, yeah. Oh no. Not on purpose, but yeah, I think that kind of worked out that way. Um,
Well, yeah, cross-platform software is a pain. It's a pain in the ass.
yeah.
Like for example, with Wasabi
Okay.
wallet,
Yeah.
it is C# cross-platform,
Okay.
but it breaks on Mac all the time.
Oh.
And like the new updates to Mac Catalana broke everything. So
Well, that broke everything because they got rid of 32-bit programs. So they're going after my old version of Photoshop. They've heard that I don't want to subscribe monthly. Ooh, that's a new feature. It's all dark.
Oh, that's cool.
That's like a feature. Let's see. We'll try to fix that here. Nope, not that one.
professional camera setup.
Oh yeah, this
You know, multiple angles, multiple.
it's the top one that always
Yeah.
goes bad.
That's cool.
That's all right. We'll fix it. Go to this one.
Oh,
There
yeah,
we go.
cool.
That's just much better
Oh,
now.
cool.
But yeah, they killed all the 32-bit programs, so
about
it's
that,
it's gonna wreck everything. Like I already don't want to update. They've already failed. Like the whole dream of you can always trust Mac. It's not like Windows where they just break things. It's Mac. Now that died with Steve. This is very sad.
You all should just run cubes. That would fix everything.
Running cubes. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I hear. I wouldn't know. But yeah.
No, it breaks more than it fixes, but it's fun.
Yeah. Cool. But so how are you guys fixing? So now you're just, I guess you just have to bite the bullet then and be cross-platform and solve the bugs as they come up and basically play whack-a-mole kind of.
Exactly. And we started silent releases of just pushing an update, but it's not announced in the software itself.
Oh,
But if you go to
interesting.
the website, it will always download the new package.
Okay.
And that helps. You know, if an edge case bug comes up, we only have to tell the user who reports it, oh, this is how you fix it, download the new version.
Oh,
But
I
not everyone
see.
is annoyed with new updates all the time, right? Because then you get update fatigue and all
Yeah,
this.
that's the thing. Wait, so users still have to go and manually update,
Yes.
but you
Downloading the
don't
package, download the signature.
you don't push it out like as, hey, everyone update all the time.
Yep.
It's like a messaging change.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So for the big releases, you know, it
Yeah.
says at the bottom of the software, new version available. Click it, it goes to the website, goes to the package.
That's smart. Okay. Yeah. So when you have like a big version, you can like be like, hey, new version, here's all the cool features that we have.
Exactly.
Wouldn't you like to get these new features? Upgrade today. Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was salesman, but yeah. Okay. Cool.
Oh. Yeah, so fantastic. Lisa, we don't really want to hold you much longer.
Oh, yeah,
you have
thank
a
you so
bunch of
much
awesome
for
stuff here
talking.
to
Yeah, this is
explore.
great.
Thank you very much to all the contributions you do to C Lightning.
Oh yeah.
And oh yeah, what is the Twitch channel?
Oh
name?
yeah, it's the same as my Twitter. It's Nifty Nye, so Nifty and then NEI. But yeah, tune in. You should comment. I may or may not see it while I'm doing it, but I always read them afterwards. So, well, thanks so much.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye bye.